Well, good afternoon, everyone. I think it's afternoon for most of us. Maybe on the West Coast, it might still be morning. So good morning to you. We still got some people filing in. And so I want to just take these 2 minutes or so as I watch the clock over here and watch our attendees kind of pile up here. I know we got some people coming in from lunches. So I want to welcome you to Prochant's webinars. So we have these webinars about 6 times a year on our Infusion side. We do have them as well on our HME side. And so if you're not familiar with that, I invite you to follow our social channels or get on our email list so that you might know both on your HME side as well as your pharmacy side. But we're certainly glad that you've all joined us today. I want to take these 2 minutes or so while we're waiting for people to pile in to offer up some good news. So if you haven't heard yet, it looks as though Johnson & Johnson is going to get approved maybe by end of next week for their vaccine. And I know we're all in the midst of COVID and we're all health professionals or serve health professionals, if in my case. So I thought I'd start with some good news. They are projecting that they can have 100 million doses out in the next 3 months, giving us possible herd immunity if everyone were to take it by late April. So, fingers crossed. I know it's been a hard year for all of us. And so I thought I'd start with some good news. Also, it's only one shot, the Johnson & Johnson one. So if you don't like needles like me, you don't have to go back. You just go in, grit your teeth and go. So a little bit of good news. Hope all your businesses are doing well. I know it's been a hard year for really all of us, to be honest with you. We seem to be protected some in our space here in the pharmacy space and healthcare in general, but certainly not protected as our business bottom line, but of course our people have been some of the most vulnerable and some of the hardest hit. So with that, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Again, I want to thank everybody. I've got Tina Ratliff on the line as well. Tina, are you here with us? Hey Tina, how are you?
Yep, I'm here. Hi everybody.
Good. It's good to see you. So we are one of the things we want to do every 2 months. And I want to be really transparent on what we try to do here at Prochant. It's only a 30-minute webinar. So we're not trying to change the world. What we're trying to do is introduce a small concept that we can try to get our hands around. We'd like to give you a new piece of information maybe you didn't know, refresh it, or give you an opportunity to ask a question or to engage with us around the reimbursement cycle. So today, if you haven't seen any of our past ones around contract management or intake, I'd invite you to go to our website, prochant.com. Brand new website. We're very excited about that. Go and download those and actually watch them. We're going to continue with that series today, and we're going to talk about timely filing. And so, Tina, we're talking about timely filing today and collections, which obviously is a really big frustration for people like me and Tina. And so we're going to kind of tell you that on the front end. When we see timely filing issues, it makes our heads explode a little. So I do want to start out by telling you just a little bit about kind of who we are, if you're not familiar. My name is John Love. I'm the Vice President of Business Development here at Prochant, and I lead our pharmacy division, which is pretty new, a little less than a year old. Prochant in itself is probably the largest and oldest HME reimbursement company, 21 years, hundreds of employees. Incredible client base. We decided to move that into pharmacy as well. Very excited about where we've landed there. And so previously, you may know me. I was led sales for WellSky and was the COO of Prochant Solutions. So been in this industry for quite a while. My companion here, Tina Ratliff. Tina's got over 25 years of experience really in pharmacy reimbursement on all sides. Tina was a lead consultant for Medaware WellSky, for CPR Plus, and for Care10. She worked on the provider side as well, leading reimbursement teams, and then also owned her own and ran her own reimbursement company. So she's done a little bit. You've done a little bit of everything, Tina. That's that's why you fit really well in this role. So again, I still see a couple people coming in, and so we're excited to have you. Let's go ahead and because again, we're only going to take up 30 minutes of your time. I only have 26 minutes left. The goal really is to try to get conversation and education going around our industry without stealing a lot of your time, because obviously it's valuable. So we're going to start talking about timely filing. And so Tina, for me, that's the problem that no one talks about, right? So just for our audience, you and I do a lot of audits. People call us up, hey, we don't know how good we're doing in reimbursement. Could you do an audit? Could you check on our team? Could you check on my business? And so we see a lot of timely filing, which is really surprising. But it would seem like we don't hear anyone talking about timely filing. It's as if it's just something that kind of happens. So we're going to talk about why that's a problem, and then Tina, you're going to talk mostly on what we would call bogus timely filing, incorrect timely filing. And so that's kind of what we're going to go through today, and how we're going to structure our time today. So Tina, starting out, we see a lot of timely filing, but do you feel like timely filing, I mean, you've got 25, almost 30 years experience. Is it almost completely preventable?
Yeah, it really is. There's a lot of things that, a lot of things that the software can do to help you to prevent things going out timely. But also, there's a lot of situations where you really did send it in time and it's more of the insurance saying I didn't get it. But those types of things can be prevented too.
Yeah. So, I mean, that comes down to a lot of poor processes. We see a lot of poor processes. So maybe I guess I would ask, I mean, when you walk through a CPR Plus customer or a Care 10 customer, um, when you talk about poor processes are the issues here, what does that look like for you?
So a lot of times, even going into a pharmacy billing department, I can usually tell right away if I just see stacks of pink claim forms around. You want to try to do things electronically. You want to continue to move forward and learn more about the payers, what they're, because a lot of them have things in place that can help you to not get timely filing denials for some of this stuff. So I just see, a lot of that of the system setup not being set up correctly, which can warn you in the event of timely filing, things like that. I see a lot of that.
When you talk about system setup, walk us through just really quick, like, what do you expect in a healthy pharmacy, how that system should prevent you from being in timely filing?
So one of the things is always making sure that you have all the payers set up electronically that can possibly go electronically. I see a lot of times where people just always send paper because that's the way they've always done it. When in essence, you can, set that up to be electronic and then you have protection with that. So I see that a lot.
But we also see poor follow-up, right? And so, in a significant amount of poor follow-up. I mean, is that a problem you've seen for years? Is that no new problem, or something you're seeing now that you maybe didn't see before?
That's a problem I see a lot, and I see that problem in almost every pharmacy. And it's not that the people who are doing the follow-up are not doing their job. They're just overloaded. There's not enough manpower to touch all of that. And so a lot of times things like paper claims that, you might need to call and check and make sure that they even receive them, that gets kind of put by the wayside for 30 days until it doesn't pay. And then now you're 30 days in. So I do see quite a bit of poor follow-up.
Yeah, and when you think about a business, and I think about a business, I'll step in here and talk for a second. The most expensive thing any of us have is labor. It doesn't matter what business you're leading. It doesn't matter if you own a restaurant, if you own a convenience store, a software company, or of course a healthcare provider. Labor is our most expensive. So I think what I'm continuing to be frustrated with, as someone who wants to see pharmacies and of course at Prochant HME organizations do really well with, is they are constantly undermanned in labor. And I think the desire for that is, hey, that's so expensive, right? So we've all heard the term that when you hire somebody, 40% more is what they actually cost you. But the problem in reimbursement, and I think, Tina, we see this all the time now, is that I'm trying to keep my labor low, and so that I end up saving a dime, but I because they can't get to everything, because they can't do everything properly, giant cracks open up in my reimbursement. Would you agree with that? And
Yeah,
things falling
absolutely.
through and getting older, my write-offs become more.
Yes.
So it's kind of that old adage of kind of the penny wise, pound foolish, where I'm chasing a dime but giving up a dollar. We run into pharmacies all the time that are getting 85 and 86 and 87% of their their cash that they should be getting, and they're leaving hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table, but they just can't hire another person because it'd just be too much. It doesn't make any sense. It drives us crazy to come in and see audits where people have these timely filings. So I think we'll start out with one of the reasons timely filing is such a huge problem is that we have the wrong focus. Our focus is so content on trying to keep our labor down that we're actually doing that, and all of our teams are undermanned. We talk all the time with people and say, you need 2 more staff members, 3 more staff members. The reason you're at 80%, 82%, or you need to do what obviously our recommendation would be is find a partner so you can go back into the pharmacy business. So that's a quick rundown of why timely filing seems to be so much of a problem for us and what we're seeing in the market. With 20 minutes here to go, I just want to say, if you have a question, type that in to the chat box. We'll pick those up at the end and answer any questions that we can. Tina, I want to shift here to kind of incorrect or bogus timely filing. You talked a little bit about this, and maybe just give us an overview of what we're talking about when we talk about, you and I may call it bogus and other people's might, but of course, just like where we did something and we feel like we've done that correctly. But of course, let's all just be honest. Payers don't want to pay. I actually don't know why payers are called payers, because they don't like to pay. It should be called non-payers that you have to force to make pay. But that's kind of the business. Yeah, non-payers. That's the business that we're in, right? So oftentimes we'll do everything right, or we think we did, and then a payer says, nah, it timed out. So where do you see that?
Well, we see that a lot with, of course, with paper. And again, even touches appeals, medical records that get submitted that just get lost in the black hole of which leaving you and getting to the payer. We see that a lot, and that's what kind of contributes to a lot of the issues with timely filing and timely collections.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, we're going to walk through some areas that we can try to help with that, or maybe why they started. You want to just kind of walk us through really kind of this understanding of electronic primary claims?
Yeah, so sending your claims, your primary claims electronically. Right now, there are just tons and tons of payers that accept electronic claims. And the benefits of sending those electronically is, one, you have a concrete ironclad proof of timely filing that you can send them. You also have payer edits as well as clearinghouse edits. And I know in CPR Plus and Care 10, you also have system edits that it will look through just hundreds of different things to make sure that your claim has all the necessary data on it. You don't always get that with paper. With paper, I see a lot of where they won't even put the claim in the system. They'll send it back and go, you don't have box whatever filled out.
Yeah, I think you're actually too kind when you say you don't always. I'm going to say you never get that. You never get that.
Yeah. But it helps you so that your claims are more accurate. You have a better chance. And then sometimes there's been situations even where I have billed something, transmitted the claim, and then realized, oh no, this needed to be done this other way. And I can get my claim number returned to me from the payer with the payer acceptance, where I can be just ready immediately to send that corrected claim into them. So there's a lot of benefits with sending your primary claims electronically.
Yeah, so obviously if that's the case, then let's kind of talk through secondary claims and why the benefits we have sending secondary claims.
So one of the biggest denials that I see for secondary claims is that there was no EOB. When you know that you've stapled this EOB to this paper claim, the two get, they get received by the insurance company, they both get scanned in, and then somehow they go in their different directions and your claim processes without your EOB. So you see that a lot.
So so that everybody understands, so when that payer gets that, they're going to rip all that out, right? Mm-hmm. They're going to rip all those pages that you put together, and they're going to scan those things in. And then payers are made of human beings, and so some things get left behind, some things. So just the concept of paper just makes us that much more prevalent to mistakes of that case. Would you agree with
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. So sending secondary claims electronically, a lot of payers are allowing that now. And when you send a secondary claim electronically, that EOB information is embedded in that claim. There's no way of stripping that out of there. It's there
Right,
to stay. And
right,
you
right.
also have proof of filing that secondary claim in a timely manner.
Yeah. And what we're looking for is really proof. I mean, just,
Mhm.
we're looking for proof because even though we've developed a relationship with payers to get paid, what it's going to take by not doing these things electronically is a lot of effort and a lot of time. And just be honest, money that should be in your bank account is still not. Now, it might eventually come to you, but it should have been there a long time ago and useful for you. So, there are some payers that only allow paper.
Mhm.
What do we need to know about that? And what's the best way to go and fight any kind of bogus timely filing or keep timely filing out of our kind of our universe when it comes to those folks that only want paper?
Yeah, so with those claims, you really have to follow up on them with at least go on their website, give them a call, whatever that takes. At least, 10 to 2 weeks after you send it so that you can make sure it's on file. A lot of times, what I'll see is, the claim will be mailed. They'll give him 30 days or so, maybe even 45 for them to get it in the mail. And then when we don't see a payment on it, they will call and then they'll say it's not on file. So they'll mail it out again. Wait another 30 days. By now you're 60 days in and you've done your job twice. And just calling on them immediately and following up on them. Again, I see where that becomes one of the little job functions of many that a biller does. And that's a lot of times seems to be one that kind of falls at the wayside. There's just not enough manpower to call on the claims that deny and then also the claims just to make sure they're on file. So I see that a
Yeah.
lot.
And I think there's a two-part problem here, right? There's the manpower issue that is overarching, right? That's the umbrella that's kind of sitting over all of this, is that we've got reimbursement teams who simply do not have enough, ability to get to everything and the nuance that it takes to work inside a major medical claim in pharmacy. But also, I mean, I think there's other things involved. I think there's a philosophy. I talk to a lot of folks who just assume the payer will do the right thing. My only thought are maybe you haven't been in this business that long, but I want you to assume the opposite. Don't wait 30 days. Assume that they're not going to pick this thing up and that someone's going to accidentally remove it or something. I mean, you need to assume there is a kind of a concept that I think is really good in reimbursement, and it's kind of productive paranoia. It comes from a book called Great by Choice, but it's a business concept that says full paranoia is terrible, right? But productive paranoia is I have a small amount of paranoia that tells me that that might not get done. So I'm going to make sure that I follow up on that in a very orderly manner. And I'm going to make sure that I stay on their radar. And so I think that I talk to a lot of reimbursement teams, and Tina, I know you do too. And they say, well, I sent it to them and then I just waited. And then, 40 days later, I was like, hey, why haven't you called me back? And it's like, you're assuming the best. And I don't think we live in a regulatory or reimbursement environment that we can assume the best. And it's not even a negative thing. It's just perhaps they're in the same case we are. Maybe they're so overworked as well. So, squeaky wheel gets the grease and all the other things, Tina, that all the other analogies I could pull out in the middle of this to say, I mean, you would agree with that, right? You
Yeah.
must be like, you got to change your philosophy and you have to, particularly on a paper claim. Hey, and so could we say this before we move on to kind of bogus timely collection? Would you be okay with me saying that you've got to assume
Oh,
that paper claims are the most vulnerable that you could be?
yes, absolutely.
Therefore, you must do more.
And a lot of people try to put little things in place like, I'll just send it and have a tracking number from the mail. That's great. And some payers actually will pay you off of that. But a lot of them know that they have the leg to stand on by saying you have no proof that that claim was in that envelope. And you don't.
You
Yeah,
don't.
you don't.
You don't. So I think I'll end this section with saying, before we move on, hey, if you're filing a paper claim, your staff should absolutely look at that as this is the most vulnerable money that will ever go and send out for a reimbursement. This is the most vulnerable cash I have. Because when I have a paper claim, I don't have a great stamp. This isn't this isn't an email where I can go back and guarantee you these things. So I think that there's a philosophy change around that. Hey, we're going to shift. And again, I see a couple questions. I want to make sure that we do spend a little bit of time asking questions at the end. So just type in a question you had that. We'll answer it as we go. But we're going to shift from kind of our timely filing to timely collections. And so, Tina, really what I want to do is just let you walk us down right here and talk to us really about, the things that we can do around collections to prevent timely filing issues or to fight them if we really feel like we've fallen into that bogus timely filing area.
Yeah. So corrected claims, a lot of payers will actually accept electronic corrected claims. You can, one of the things I like to do is enter a narrative note that will actually go with the claim to just further help them understand what you're trying to collect. But in doing that, again, you have proof that you filed that correction in a timely manner, because payers, you only have so many days from the denial date to actually file that corrected claim. So it's important that, we've gotten through the timely filing of the initial claim, but now we've got to get through this timely deadline that we have for collections.
Yeah, absolutely. On that medical record follow-up, are there best practices you'd recommend?
Yeah, so, a lot of times we'll get medical record requests. Sometimes it's, when the patient has just started service, but sometimes it's after the patient has been on service for a while. And, we'll go ahead, we'll fax over the medical records that they need, and then we'll call back in, 15 to 30 days and ask about why haven't these claims paid, and we didn't get your medical records. And even though you have a fax cover, I've sent fax cover many of times to them showing that it went through, and they say, we don't consider that. Yeah, but we don't have it. We don't have it. We don't care about your fax cover.
That's the same as telling them that you have an envelope. They don't care. There's nothing binding unless we can prove that what was in our envelope or what was behind that fax, So, but when we think about appeal follow-up, because obviously we want to go after and we want to appeal, we talked about poor processes, poor documentation, things of that nature. Maybe we could sit down just for a second here with our last few minutes and talk about the teams that are really being unsuccessful with this are the ones who aren't really documenting these things in the system. As far as documentation number, reference number, they're not getting. Maybe they're just putting in, hey, called for an appeal. Like, what's your recommendation on appeal follow-up?
So I really suggest for both medical records that are sent and appeal packets that are sent, that just like with those paper claims, that you call when it's been, there's been, at least a few days gone by on faxes, maybe 10 days or so for appeals that are mailed, that you call and make sure they're on file, because I've had to write off quite a few claims for customers because they, again, didn't call on the appeal until it was, 30 days old, and they sent it back again because they didn't get it. And then they didn't get it again for another 30 days and their appeal limit is up. They don't have time to collect on it, and nothing that they have is considered proof. So it's really important to don't wait all that time. Jump on that right away and just make sure it's on file. Get your document control number for your medical records. Get your whatever type of reference number they have that your appeal can be found with, and document that in your notes so that, they can't, you're not burning up all this time and they can't come back to the next person who calls on it and say they never received it.
Yeah, and I just want to talk philosophy here before we kind of turn the corner here and begin to wrap up with 6 more minutes. But does anyone on this, we got a lot of people on this call, does anyone think that our payers are gathering together in groups and saying, man, 123 pharmacy, they got some really big claims here that are only a week away from being out of timely filing. We better let them know, or that's not happening. That's not happening. They are not having meetings in order to get you up to date. You have to assume that they are absolutely okay with things moving on. And if you're not following up on a very active basis, it moves on through the system where it's now out of your ability to collect. And so again, I want to really sit down in two places, a few places, poor processes, poor follow-up. Most of that sits under the umbrella of not enough manpower on our reimbursement teams, but a philosophy that is almost too generous. We talk to people all the time that say, hey, yeah, I made the appeal, and then I waited 45, 60 days. Like, for what? Like, you've got to be on your toes, and you have to go get your money. It's your money. And so that's really, I think, one of our messages here when you're trying to fight timely filing. So what does success look like? We'll begin to kind of wrap up and answer some questions. Success in a pharmacy looks really simple for us. Do we have a bad debt of 3% or less? Are we cash to net revenue results in 97%? Maybe 95 is the standard. We think you can get to 97% of all the collectible cash should be coming in. DSO below 50. Below 50 is not a big mark, folks. We should be at 35 probably, but certainly below 50. We talk to pharmacies all the time that have payers that are sitting at 75. They have payers, and those are the difficult payers. But they're sitting at 75, they're sitting at 80, and they shouldn't be there. And so I guess my first question would be to all the people on, is that what your pharmacy looks like? If not, I think that you have a couple of options. My first option would be, we offer a complimentary audit at Prochant. We are here to be, one of our core values is partnership with a purpose. We don't want to be your vendor. We think vendors are a little standoffish. In our world, we're a partner. So we only succeed if you succeed. So we come in for nothing, complimentary. We're going to, spend our expertise analyzing your cash to net revenue. We're going to look at your AR. We're going to do random ticket reviews and audits. We're going to look at best practices and review problem areas. And we're going to present back to you what the status of your pharmacy is and where we would recommend. And just in transparency, if you fall under that maybe 60, 70% of pharmacies that we talk to that we feel like would be better outsourcing, we're going to recommend that. And so you shouldn't be surprised at that. That's what we do. And so we believe that pharmacies that in the regulatory and reimbursement environment that exists today, that pharmacies are better getting back to being pharmacies. I've talked to pharmacies all the time, and HMEs that feel like they're running more of a reimbursement finance department than they are a healthcare provider. And that's because it's so very difficult to get paid. And that's kind of why we exist, just to be honest with you. We have a proven process. As you see on kind of our pharmacy revenue cycle, every single thing that goes into this, we have expertise, 25, 30 years of expertise in both the industry and your system. And so that's what we're really here for. And so if we can help you, we want to help you. Tina, I got a couple questions here, just finishing up, that have been sent in. And so the first question is, would you recommend, when dealing with payers in a timely filing, like a bogus timely filing area, it looks like, that managers deal with that, or would you just let your normal collectors call it?
Oh, I would just have normal collectors calling.